Hey everyone, how are you guys doing tonight? It's good to see all of you. Can you hear me okay? We got a really good show tonight. I got a couple great gentlemen with us tonight that are backstage that are actually waiting for us. So I just want to go over a couple things with you. Hey, Cindy. Hi, Lynn. Hey, Joe. Hey, Michelle. Good to have you with us. This account, K.A. Teresa. Zoe Valentine. Hey, DGR Dave. Truth Justice. Always good to have you in the house. Daisy. Ozzy. Zooter. Hey, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Anonymous. Good to have you here. Good to see all of you. So tonight we are going to be talking with Perry Freeman of Faxx, and we're going to be talking to our good friend as well, Gonzo, from Real Gone Gonzo. So I wanted to let you guys all know that I would like everything to remain, as we always have in our chat, very respectful. And if you do have a question that you would like to put forth to the panel, please put #ask before the question in chat, and hopefully my moderators will be able to help me sort some of those out so that we can get to them at certain breaks in the show. We are going to be talking a lot about Flora and Delphi, and we are going to probably touch on Evansdale as well. So, like I said, I'm really happy to have you all here. And without further ado, let's say hello to Perry Freeman from Faxx and Real Gone Gonzo. Hey, Gonzo. Hey, Perry. Welcome.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys? We're all glad to see you.
It's hot where I'm at.
Who's got the birds? I love the sound of the birds. Who's got the birds?
I hear them, but I don't have them.
Okay, I was just going to say, I hear birds.
I do too. They're chirping like crazy.
So that's kind of cool. I really like that.
I hope this hotel doesn't have them.
I've got a ceiling fan going. I hope that's not what you're hearing.
No, these are really, I can really hear birds.
I hear
Gonzo, I hope they don't keep you up tonight.
Yeah, this hotel better not have birds in it or I'm out of here.
Yeah, that might not be a cool thing, right?
But I do hear them. That's crazy.
I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, it's really strange. Well,
right.
like I said, I'm really glad that you guys decided to join me tonight. There's been a lot that has gone on in the last 24 hours that I think we should cover first when we're talking about Flora. I spent most of the day on the phone, as I was telling Perry backstage, trying to um, get support from local media, both print and television. And also, I was trying to contact some investigative reporters out of Indianapolis to see if I could get them to pick up. Hold on a second. Tecta said it's really loud, so hold on. There we go. To pick up this story because it's just crazy, and I think it's time that we get more eyes on it. And I know you guys agree with me on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's time.
It's definitely time. And there are so many layers to this of what's happening in Flora as well as Delphi. And that whole county is just a mess in my opinion. And this is just, to me, the icing on the top of the cake because I can't take it anymore. I had to do something. I had to feel like I was doing more than I'm doing. So that's why I was on the phone most of the day. But for the viewers who may not be aware, yesterday afternoon, I was made aware that Flora Community Center, who has been raising money for the last 5 years in Flora for the Flora girls, had raised $18,000 to date. And they had a meeting last night. I'm sorry, what is today? Tuesday, Monday, Sunday. They had a meeting yesterday and decided that they were going to give the money to the Flora Fire Department. And this was reward money. This was money that had been raised from the community for many different events that was actually stated for information relating to the capture of whoever was responsible for the arson fire. Now, what people don't know and what I was able to find out today is that there was an agreement made when they set this up that after 5 years, they could take this money and really do with what they wanted with it. Pretty much give it back to the fire department or set up something for fire education in the schools. But I just think the optics of this is bad. This case is still ongoing. And they could have voted to not do this. The head of the community center posted on Facebook and said that. She said that they could have placed that vote, but there were 2 people that was against it. And those 2 people happen to be Josh Ayers and Troy Helderman. Those are both the owners of the Flora house where the girls perished. And if that is not controversial, and the fact that they could even vote on something like this, it just
exactly
is just amazing to me.
Yeah.
So what you guys want to weigh in on what's going on?
Well, I'll let you start, Perry.
Well, I've been a cheerleader for Flora ever since I got in this world. I posted back in November when the 5-year anniversary was coming up, and every live that I've been on or anybody that I've chatted with or whatever, I always bring up the Flora girls. And I'm thrilled that just recently there's more interest for sure. And I think your channels had something to do with that. And that's all good, but we're still dealing with 325,000 on Delphi and 18,000 in Flora. And then on top of that, you get kicked in the teeth with this thing that they did last night. So yeah, we need to make noise. That's why I contacted Gessela with Grizzly True Crime. She's got 60, 70,000 subscribers. Made her aware of it. I'm sure she'll jump on it and can make a lot of noise from where she's standing. So that's what we have to do, I think, make a lot of noise, do what you're doing, Kristen, contact people and every day be talking about it.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about it, Gonzo? I know it's probably tore your heart.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's good that you're beating the YouTube streets right now because someone's got to do it. If we can get Gizella, with Grizzly on board, she's got a good reach. She's got a good heart for this thing. I think that's great. It just goes to show you that we can't be shocked by anything right now. Um, Carroll County, I mean, they're going to pull some crazy stuff on us right and left. We just got to be ready for it and come together as a crowdsourcing team and just do what we can, whether it's, punching holes in things that we can, really just, if we can just keep digging deep like we are as creators, as people that really care for the family and the victims, and then work the backside of it, saying, hey, let's get the right people in play and just make enough noise, like Perry said. Let's raise some hell, and
Yeah.
we got to get this out there. I mean, it is sad, and when I saw that news, I was like, whoa, here we go again, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just couldn't believe it, and I was so dumbfounded when it happened, and when I got notified of it, I immediately went to Reddit because I'm a Reddit person. I was Reddit before I came to YouTube, and so I immediately went to my channel or to my subreddit and put that out there, what was happening, and I stayed up late last night talking to people on Reddit, trying to get a handle on what was going on and how we were going to stop this morning. And we all agreed that phone calls were going to be our best bet. And I know a lot of people have called all day. They've been calling the NAACP, who was actually active in the case in the beginning, trying to advocate for the girls, seeing if they would speak out on this. I called the Flora town council. They don't have a mayor. They have a town council.
Yeah.
And Daryl Yoder is the president, and I called him today because I wanted to speak to him and at least get a comment from him on his thoughts on what was happening, and was told that he rarely ever comes into the office and is only usually there once a month for the actual council meeting. But they could get a message to him from me. And I was flabbergasted. I just was like, well, why doesn't that surprise me?
That's all right. That's your job is, just get the word out, start talking to people. Let's beat down some doors, whether it's behind the computer, on the phone. Let's use our lifelines, right? So
Yep.
That's just big news. That's just getting the ball rolling. I thought the Josh, he made a lot of noise early and he kind of fell off lately. So I'm like, what's going on there? So that's probably another story right there. So
I just, I don't understand a lot of what's happening there. And I know that we've got Perry mentioned it a little bit earlier backstage, that we do have a few content creators that are now putting stuff out about Flora. And that really is a good thing. And some of them are fantastic, the stuff that they are uncovering. And Unsolved is one of my moderators in here, and she has done an amazing job at what she's been able to put together. She's incredible to me, and I can't say enough about her.
Yeah, she is incredible. The first email I ever got from her blew me away. Her vocabulary is unbelievable.
Isn't it?
I said, this is an educated lady. I had no idea about her background, but right away.
And here she is. She just arrived.
Yes.
Oh, good.
We're talking about you, Unsolved.
She's one of the good ones.
Oh, for sure. And talk about being sincere. She really is. But right away, I said, this is one educated lady here, before I knew anything about her. In fact, one of the first response that I made, I said, on my next book, I'm going to need some help, and maybe I can use you.
There you go. I was thinking, anytime I need statistics, I'm going to her. She understands numbers like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I've got to take notes when I watch her.
So do
keep her in your tribe, Kristen. She's awesome. She goes back for you.
We love her, and
keep her close.
And she's going to help us she's going to help us get this to the DOJ, because I'm serious. Her bringing it up and saying that's where we need to go next, to me, is so right. We need a Department of Justice investigation into Carroll County and the other 6 counties that are surrounding this area that have all of these unsolved arson type fires with all these dead children. I mean, I can't believe that people aren't outraged about this and aren't talking about it. So yeah.
You got a juggernaut case right down the road in the same county. Little newer, not much, you know. Of course you're going to get that, but Flora is every bit of important, or, you know, every bit of the highest importance is Delphi. And somehow Delphi gets all the shine. We understand that, but let's keep the awareness going for Flora, you know.
It saddens me because I don't want to take anything away from Abby and Libby. I know that we need eyes on them constant, just like we have. But what bothers me is how society is about things. And I do believe that this, whether people like it or not, this has to do with there's a racial connotation here because of where they were, where they live, the type of environment that they live in. It's a highly white community. And not that there's not people that care in that community, because obviously there are, but there's that underlying, it's not that big a deal anymore. It's just kind of like they're forgotten. And I don't know if it's on purpose. I don't know if there's an underlying element that doesn't want this case solved for nefarious reasons. But I believe all of those things could be possible. And it angers me. Perry brought it and hit it on the head. We have $325,000 sitting there for anyone who brings up tips that brings in Bridge Guy, and we've got actually $5,000 from ISP for Flora, and then this $18,000 that they collected.
That's crazy. That blew my mind.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's terrible. Let's raise some hell. That's all we can do.
I wrote, it's been 3 weeks now. I wrote to the owner of the Indianapolis Colts because he gave over $100,000 to the Delphi girls and didn't give anything to Flora. I don't know if he was aware of Flora. It happened before, but I wanted to make him aware, and I haven't heard anything yet. So, you know, I'm trying. I just think it's sad that we have such a disproportionate thing on these 2 cases.
It's very sad. Really
we just got to keep plugging away. I mean, honestly, you're making the right steps. We'll get this out to the right creators, pump the awareness, and hopefully it swings the right way.
We're just 24 hours into this latest news, so
right, exactly.
You're doing the right thing, and so are other people, and we just, you know, every day.
That's it.
Just bring it up anytime you're live with anybody. Bring it up, no matter who you are.
Yep.
And the same for everybody in the chat. You know, bring it up.
Yeah, exactly.
In the chat, bring it up.
Everybody in the chat, bring it up. Start talking about this amongst your chat friends, your other content creators when you're on their shows. Ask them why they're not covering Flora. Ask them why they don't talk about Flora. Make it make it part of the mission, because Flora is as important as Delphi.
I can only imagine how Galen Rose feels about that. You know, I mean, when she got the news, could you just imagine?
I just can't.
My mind was blown. I'm sure she's been bawling all day.
I can't imagine the feeling of being let down again so heavily. She's already been let down horribly and thrown under the bus by the state police, because every time Doug Carter don't get me wrong, I respect Doug Carter, and I think that he's a decent human being, but to him go out publicly and say things like, well, we need more help from the family or whatever, all he's done is put eyes on her and made people think she's guilty of something. And I just think that's horrific. This woman is not guilty of anything, in my opinion. That's what they want you to believe. And it's easy to do that in this
Controlled
situation.
narrative. Yeah, absolutely.
They want to control the narrative. Hey, Dave, thank you so much for your super sticker. That's really kind to support the channel. Thank you guys so much. So what do you guys feel about how the investigation, really, they don't talk about it in Flora. Perry, what do you feel with your background? How do you get investigators to talk about at least what they're doing? They don't give any updates at all on Flora. What do we do with that, or do we?
I'm not sure how to answer that. I think if you have at least one serious, competent investigator that's tuned into it, and it's their mission,
Thank you,
it's not
Michelle,
going to
so
go
much.
away. Somebody's working on it, but we don't know that. We don't hear anybody that's standing up for these girls. I don't know. It's not normal for law enforcement to give out information, whether it's Delphi or Flora or whatever. I don't remember going to the public with our cases at all, ever. We never had anything like Delphi to deal with, or Flora. But I think sometimes, the true crime world expects too much from law enforcement as far as being open and sharing and, asking for help and all that. So I don't know. I just have to think or hope that we have, a couple of investigators with the State Patrol or somewhere in that area that are still working on this and have some leads. I'm sure there are people calling in the tip line. I've got a question for the chat or anybody. Has anybody heard or know firsthand? I've heard, I think on your channel, what the accelerant was in Flora. And I didn't hear any reasoning for that. And I'd really like to know what the accelerant was, because there's some people I've talked to.
Truth Justice is in here. Is Meow Zedong in here yet? Do we know? Because I know she was planning on being here. Truth Justice is also a subreddit. He hosts a subreddit for Flora. He started the first one that I'm aware of way last year. And I wanted to know, do you know what he's talking about? Because I do. I remember it being brought up in my chat about formaldehyde.
That's one of them. Yes. As above, so below, he's posted about it as well. And I'm pretty sure he's talked about the accelerants used a couple times. So it might be something good to, cross-reference and back-check some of his videos. I have heard that, but formaldehyde is definitely in the mix.
That was one. And Truth Justice says he heard it was a liquid that arson dogs did not alert on. Now, that means to me that whoever used, whatever they used, they know about arson and they know what to use that's not going to be picked up or be noticed, easily. So it is someone who has a background in that. Yep. Whether it be chemicals or some type of thing. And I think Truth says you can smell it. But I know that was brought up, that somebody had heard that or knew that. And I've never heard what it was, except that it was not something common. It's not a common accelerant.
Interesting.
Is what I have always heard.
Yeah, and Gonzo and I have talked about this. We'll talk some more about it off the live here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle and Nicholas, she's a mod for me. She also is a CSI, and she says, what about acetone?
I can't verify that, but
I mean, I don't know I guess one of the things I need to delve into is, what do arson dogs hit on? What are they trained to what are the accelerants that they are trained to pick up?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, let's dive into it. Let's see what's available. Let's check the boxes, right? That's all we can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Michelle said that acetone is extremely flammable and you don't smell it.
No clue.
And AJ, oh, I'm sorry. Hi, AJ. How are you? Truth Justice said we have to remember that these guys own hardware stores. So they're going to have a lot of access to these kinds of chemicals that we use in, stripping paint or, whatever. So that's a thought.
Formaldehyde that's kind of an unusual substance.
It is.
We don't all
Very.
have that at the hardware store.
Yeah, you're not going to find that at the hardware store. Yeah,
you're smelling that one too. So
for sure.
I would certainly think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells. So,
well, on a lighter note and a positive note, we've got the McClurkin arrest yesterday with this
yes,
Flint farmer. Who knows what doors that's going to open? I think that's a strong possibility.
It was such huge news. I put it out on my community page right away when I heard about Karina and him being arrested, and I was happy, but at the same time saddened because we still haven't found her. We still don't know where she is, and so the family has got to be just aching. But it is good news, and I thought the same thing, Perry. What kind of doors will this open? What kind of information did they glean that they said they got last fall? Because that bothered. I mean, when they said last fall, they weren't specific of what time range last fall meant. But I'm thinking, well, what happened to Delphi last fall? Is when we learned about the CSAM mess and Kagan Klein and all of that. So I just thought that was quite interesting. It'll be interesting to find out about this guy. I've been able to learn a little bit about him. I don't think he's a good guy, but that doesn't mean he's a killer. Obviously, he's innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, it was good news.
My takeaway on that was, 6 years later, we got somebody on the hook. That gives Delphi community a lot of hope that things can still be rolling, that people are still doing the due diligence and working hard. Yeah, I mean, there's speculation out there that there's going to be more, there was a confession, there's more things that could drop in the near future, so we got to stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all know that Flint Farmer was a POI early, so it's like we've got our early POIs in the Delphi case. We can't let them go. We just got to keep an open mind and, keep plugging away. But I took really good news. I mean, I took a lot of, positives out of that. Yeah,
absolutely.
It is scary though. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, I did. I felt very positive. I couldn't believe a lot of the negative comments that I was getting on my post. And I just laugh about it because I'm like, everybody, there's always going to be people that want to find the negative and everything. But I thought to myself, here we have a case that is nearly 6 years old. And you're right. They were looking at him in the very beginning. And for whatever reason, they didn't either have enough, needed more, or whatever, which could very well be what's happening in Delphi. Absolutely could be the exact same scenario. And here we are. They finally were able to make an arrest. And
they need that last little bit to fall, I mean,
yeah.
Let's just stay positive with that. I took a lot of good out of that and had a lot of good conversations in the last day or two, talked to Perry offline. I talked to you about it yesterday, Kristen. Man, let's just stay tuned with that. Cause I'm really thinking, a lot of these guys ran in the same circles. We kind of know where the overlaps were with, where he worked. And I don't know if you guys want to touch on that at all, but
yeah, I do.
I just think that things are really interesting. That community over there is super tight. I mean, scumbags kind of run with scumbags. I don't know the guy, but
he worked at Chrysler.
Yep.
The same place that Tony Klein worked.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. Did they cross paths? Did they know each other? Do they
I'll
run
tell
in
you
the same
what.
circles?
If you're in that area or in that county for long, you're gonna cross paths with everybody.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not that big.
Well, especially if
tiny.
you're in the if you're in that drug circle, in that drug world,
Oh,
they all know each other. They all know each
intermingle,
other.
cross pollination of corruption. I mean, it's pretty ugly. It's pretty easy to run into the same guy twice, and I just find it super interesting, and I'm excited.
You know, I'm in the middle of America in a real small town. Closest town with a Walmart that'll kind of give you something to judge by is 60 miles away, and then Grand Island is 90 miles away, and that's a similar size as Kokomo. But I guarantee you that people in my little town talk about the druggies in Grand Island. They talk about them in Lincoln,
Sure.
which is over 100 miles away. They all know each other,
Sure.
especially at the level that we're thinking these people are involved. They all know them. You know,
See, I think it's a lot bigger level of
yes,
of what's going on here than any of us have ever even imagined. This is just not some local drug guys that are doing a little bit of dealing here and there. This is big. This whole
Huge.
thing is big between the drugs and the CSAM. I think it's all interconnected, and somebody's running this major.
I think there's a couple key players that are absolutely gluten that are holding two different entities, and a couple dark entities on this side are met with, with this one by a couple key people. And I think we just got to stay tuned and keep digging in. It's very interesting, and those communities are tight.
So Sally says that black smoke indicates unburnt accelerants. And
That's true.
Truth Justice says that he believes that. He has reasons for believing that from talking to a source on the Flora Fire Department. So there was a lot of black smoke in that fire. It was really bad, in fact, the black smoke that came out of that house. But yeah, getting, somebody wants to know the motive as to why would Flint kill that young girl. What was his motive? Well, if we knew that, we'd hold.
I mean, look at his rap sheet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there. So
yeah.
that's all
And definitely not a good person, and not a good guy, not somebody that I would think that you would want to cross. We know that she did have a drug problem. She was getting ready to go away to Florida to rehab. Her grandmother talks about that. And so who knows what could have happened here, in that scenario. But whatever, it wasn't her fault what happened to her. So
is it true that there was an eyewitness that put Flint and Karina together the day before? I've recently read that.
I heard that she was at somebody's house.
Spotted with him.
Him.
Yep.
The day before. And if he was her supplier, or if he was the one getting her whatever it was she was, using, then that could very well obviously be possible.
Yeah. Well, and she was scheduled to go to treatment. That's when some people got to come off the board, unfortunately, and that's just terrible to say. Yep. I don't want to say that, but you can't make money when that money's getting better, or when the person's getting better or is on the mend. They want.
Yeah, isn't that awful to think of? I mean, I get it. I understand where you're coming from, because they see that as they don't see her as a person. They see her as just something to make money for them.
Yep.
And they want to keep her addicted, obviously, not getting better.
Yeah, that drug world, drugs, money, somebody knowing too much can get people killed. No doubt about it.
Yep.
And exactly, if she saw him, do something else there's just all kinds of things that she could have witnessed.
All
that
kinds of
could have put,
possibilities there.
yeah, that could have put her in a bad scenario with him. But yeah, it's just I don't know, it's just mind-boggling. And how all of this I mean, Unsolved Crimes and I were talking this morning about how all of these things tend to overlap one another, because we're
Sure.
talking about some of the same things that we have in the Delphi case, some of the same things we have in Flora. We have members of Kiana's, or excuse me, the Flora 4 girls family who had issues with drugs. We have people in the Delphi girls murders that have family members who had issues with drugs. We are well aware of that. So Perry has talked about this on videos about the drug problem and the meth problem in this county and this area. And I don't think that we can overlook that. And I know families don't want to stop and think about that, and it's painful to admit, or it's painful to go on, whatever. But we realize that people who are on meth do really crazy stuff. And Perry can speak to that better than probably the rest of us.
Yeah, too many stories. Yeah, for sure. They do crazy things, and they get totally detached from reality. I mean, they don't have a clue what day it is. I mean, they can go several days, maybe a week, without any sleep, and they're totally oblivious to what's going on around them. And then they crash, and they're out for 24 hours or so, and then they do it again.
0 to 100 every day of the week, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
You ride like lightning, you're going to crash like thunder, right?
That's it.
Man, I can't even imagine going all week without sleep.
Then they wake up and they've done some uncontrolled, unforgivable act, and all bets are off. Now you gotta chase that act with another bad act to cover it up, or whatever you got to do, and it's a mess. I mean, I've walked those streets in Carroll County and Delphi. I've been to the Florida house, and man, every which way I look, to the right and to the left, I'm finding something that's sketchy, something that's not above board on every corner. I mean, these communities are just kind of in shambles, and I really feel like sometimes that's a bigger story than some of the stories that brought us here in the first place. And people don't want to say that either, but it's the truth,
Yeah.
Well, Perry, can you speak to why some of these meth rings get involved in these small communities and these little towns? What's their reasoning behind that?
It's not just the small communities. I mean, it's everywhere. I think it's just more visible in a smaller community.
Yep.
The little town that I live in, we have transient type people that come in and stay for 6 months or a year, and then they move on, and they leave their utilities unpaid, rent unpaid, trash not collected, backyard to be full of trash, or the mud room or something like that, basement. And they come and go. And we know as soon as they move in, like, okay, this is a drug family. You can tell within a week or two, because they're hooked up with our regular drug people within days. It's amazing the web that they all have.
They find
them. Yeah. And but I couldn't say why. And I don't think there's any bigger percentage in the small communities or rural communities. I think it's just more visible, and we hear more about it. It gets lost in a bigger city. In a huge city, a you're talking about Kansas City or Chicago or New York or LA. It just gets lost in there. But it's everywhere. And like I've talked in the past, when you've got packing plants, I talked about that some. That's a lot of the meth problem right there. People work 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, and getting meth off the street is better than trying to stay awake and work those shifts and make that extra money. And they get addicted, and then life goes downhill. And there's a lot of that in the rural community, especially, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas. It's there.
Gonzo, Truth Justice asked you, did you get the feeling that everybody knew you were an outsider? Because that's how he felt when he went there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always an outsider, but no. I
That's
do
just
change
because
my
everybody
appearance.
thinks you're Johnny Depp.
Yeah. So I changed my appearance when I go into these places. But yeah, I really did. But what I try to do is be really present in the moment. I try to dig my toes into the dirt, get into the situation, try to be a fly on the wall, be respectful, handle everybody that I talk to in the community with tact and respect. And it goes a long way. I mean, I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a guy that's going to shove a camera in your face and try to demand answers. I'm just out here trying to do what I can for these victims, for these families. And yeah, I mean, I did feel that way in Delphi, but I felt that way in many cases that I'm working with all over the country. It's these small town communities. They're kind of scary, man. And like what Perry said, it's easy for the bad to gravitate to the bad and the evil to gravitate to the evil entities in town, in the area, in the counties. And it's like they find each other. And boredom in a small town will get you in trouble quicker than hell. I mean, so if you're already kind of on the ropes and looking at a life of crime, go to small town USA, pick your poison, and it's readily available, and failure is always the first option.
Miss Jan asks, who polices the police?
The band?
And Jennifer says you are more handsome than Johnny Depp.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it.
So
I would stunt double for him, but I'm a little beat up right now. So excuse me for that. I got a broken nose and a busted eardrum. So we're rolling with it.
We're wishing you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Jennifer
you guys have been great.
Says we just had the biggest meth bust in history in St. Louis.
I believe it. That's a hub. Perry knows.
St. Louis is a big problem.
It's a hub.
Sure.
It's a hub spot.
Yep.
Big trouble.
That's just it's very, very, very complicated. Do you want to talk about the complications in these two cases, especially in Delphi and Flora, Perry? What complicates them for the investigators in your mind?
Well, I felt all along in Delphi that something went wrong from the get-go, the first 24 hours. And I think the key is an alibi. I think somebody is covering an alibi, and I think that's the missing link. I've said that numerous times. I feel pretty confident they know way more than we do, but there's an obstacle, and I think it's something that happened early on. And I think that may be why they were saying there's no fear, nothing to worry about, the community's safe, because I thought they had a handle on it. They thought they had a handle on it from the get-go, and then it went south. That's my
I
personal
feel that
opinion.
way too. I absolutely feel that way. I never understood when Tobe Lesenby came out and said, that we don't need to worry, that this is a one-off thing. We don't need to worry. Why did they think that? And then to have Mullen, the chief of police of Delphi, say, well, our constituents, or our citizens, they know what to think about this. What does that mean? I mean, I couldn't believe he said that. I was like, you have 2 teenage girls murdered in your town, and you've never had anything like this ever, and you just think it's no big deal. It's like, it's okay. Don't be worried. Don't lock your doors. Don't be worried about your children. The only person who came out and said anything was Kim Riley, who said, be mindful of what your children are doing online. And he said that within weeks of it all happening.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
that was kind of swept under the rug a little bit, but he did say it.
Tobe, he's in a position where he's got to keep the peace. He's got to keep the people feeling, he's got to control the public on first, right out of the gate, and say, hey, I can kind of understand where he was going with that. I don't quite agree, and I'm glad I wasn't put in that spot because I might have said something worse. I don't know, but I can't really fault him too much. But I do know what you're saying there. But yeah, I mean, you got somebody at large out there, or a group of people, and yeah, you got to be safe. You got to know where your kids are. You got to know that your deadbolt's locked. You got to understand what streets not to walk at night. I mean, it's tough. That's just small town.
And I mean, I get that they didn't want to, create a panic, but
Exactly.
to just be so nonchalant about it, in my opinion, it was just weird.
They've never had to handle something like this, so they were just completely just shooting from the hip, trying to, control it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, I definitely think that. Go ahead, Perry.
Well, to answer your original question about the obstacles, I think it comes back to what I've talked about on a few videos. They've got to know the motive. And when you know the motive, you're getting real close. You probably solved the crime. They're going to have the opportunity. They're going to have to put that person at the bridge that day. And they've got to have the means to commit the crime. And that can mean a lot of things. But in this case, like I've said, I think they came knowing what they were going to do, and they brought the equipment with them. And I don't think there's any doubt what they were going to do. So those are the obstacles, those three basic things. That's investigation 101.
Yep.
Wow. Jennifer said that meth bust was 476 pounds of meth, $3,500 a pound. Do the math.
Some heavy dope.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, that's wow.
That was U.S. largest bust of the
know.
year or of all time?
They said more than $1 million of meth.
Man.
That's crazy.
We got the fentanyl problem right now. So, I mean, just strap in, and, when hard times come and a pandemic comes and, recession and gas prices are going nuts, people are going to take the easy way out. And some of these numbers in some of these really bad situations are going to boost because people are up against the wall. It sucks. I hate to think that way.
Bad times.
Hard times make hard decisions, and people sometimes don't make the right decisions. So
Unsolved says, but in not handling this before, shouldn't they understand their ignorance? Putting pride and ego aside, invite the authorities. To heck with the jurisdictional fight. And I think after time, especially, in the beginning, maybe not thinking, they can do this. I do think that they asked for help. But I mean, I think they need to ask for it again, perhaps. And especially in Flora. I just feel like with Flora, especially, I think that everything has been poured into Delphi, it seems, and we've been made aware of that. But we haven't been made aware of that with Flora. And I feel since it's the same county and we know how many county officers there are, and how many people do you have? You don't have a lot, right?
No.
So I just think they need more help. And I wish they'd ask for it. And it bothers me they haven't.
Flora needs a lot of help. I mean, they need us. They need you guys in the chat. We need all hands on deck. We need people to know the names Kiana, Kiera, Cariel, and Kiani. They need to know those names. They need to remember those names. That's the first thing that we need to know, is we need to keep that awareness and those lights on for that case. I mean, after 5 years, you're technically a cold case. We don't want to see that. I know you guys aren't going to let that happen. I know many people that run in our true crime community, our friends, aren't going to let that happen. So we just got to keep the hammer down and just do what we can do. I want to head back out there and do some kind of create some awareness out there of some sort. Do our little part in something big, right? Bigger than us. So,
Yeah.
Right. And you being out there gives me just hope, because I know how much you take this to heart and these cases when you go there, and what you're trying to do. Aside from us, you're out there putting yourself, in my opinion, at risk, because there are killers or a killer, whichever, at loose out there. They obviously don't want you digging in things.
No.
So you've got to be careful. But, you're willing to do it, and that says so much. I wish we had more people with boots on the ground in some of these situations that could go around and talk to some of these people. I keep hearing that the locals know, and that I just,
there you go.
if the locals know, why aren't they talking? Somebody's afraid of someone, right?
Well, there's good reason to be afraid, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We hear it every week. The locals know, this person knows, that person ran with that person. How the rumor mill goes, right? If the locals knew, they should be standing on the rooftops. But obviously, like Perry said, there's reason to be afraid. I mean, this is some scary stuff. This is real world, bad stuff. True crime was created on very bad things, had to happen for us to come here to dig into them. And it's scary. It's a scary world out there.
And I just don't believe that this is something like a serial killer. I just don't feel that way. I know that there's a reason sometimes to think that, but at the same time, I think there's more to all of this than that. I think I don't know. I think that it's somebody that, I don't know. There's just a lot of reasons I'm not going to go public with them, but I just feel like there's a lot of things that are playing into this story. And I'm afraid of the layers that we're looking at, and people not wanting to let that be. They don't want to think about it, that they could be connected, or that this all could be connected. And they're like, nope, I don't want to think that way. I believe this. We're back to confirmation bias, where people don't want to give up their own inside thought, and look at everything.
True. I mean, there's a lot of people that think, Evansdale and Flora and Delphi have a lot of connections. I see a lot of overlapping when you're that close and you've rocked these small communities to their core. People are gonna think the craziest. They're gonna go down every rabbit hole. They're gonna run it through the brain trust of everybody in the community, shake it until something falls out. And we just got to keep everything tight and do our best for what we know, what we're working on. So that's all we can do as creators.
So they asked, do we think it's possibly a personal reason? Well, yeah, it could very well be a personal reason.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question. It could have several angles to that.
There's all kinds of angles where it could be personal. It's very possible. It's very possible.
Teresa Fountains, she's amazing. She's one of our angels in the Suzanne Morphew community. And good question. I mean, very possible. All three of these cases, it's going to get personal.
And see, that's the thing with Evansdale, and I just did a 10th anniversary show on Evansdale last week. And the thing about Evansdale that gets me is the same background, that there's meth in the family, meth use. And I hate to bring that up. I really, really do. But at the same time, you can't ignore it because it's there. And when you look at common denominators between these cases, we've got that, like Perry said, we've got these what am I trying to say? Not a butcher house, but I'm talking processing plants. Those are close. We have these things that are common denominators between these cases that we can't overlook. So,
Well,
Just Pam wants to know, Perry, is there a point in time where the FBI or the other feds could take over this case, or could take over a case?
the feds take over, like if it's interstate issues, any kind of a felony or a federal charge involved. They pretty much are just there to assist local authorities who ask for the help, unless it's a federal crime or crosses state lines and those kind of things. So I think the FBI is involved in Delphi. I don't really know much about Flora, their involvement there, but I feel pretty confident that FBI and the State Patrol are both involved in Delphi big time. I'm pretty sure that the State Patrol is involved with Flora, and I do have some issues with, like you said, about what Doug Carter said. But he may have had a reason for that. That's something you have to realize. He's not in that position because he's going to say the right thing or what the public wants to hear.
Exactly.
Everything he says is thought out, and he has a reason behind it. And it's not just him. There'll be several people agree on what's going to be said in those press conferences or interviews or whatever. So I think they're involved. But for them to come over and FBI to come in and take over, no, not unless they're asked to. And that it may be time for that, for sure, as you guys have said.
It sounded like something just shook loose in the Karina McClurkin case, because the FBI did step back in recently, and that's how we got to where we are now. What shook loose, we don't know.
Right.
But they did, and that shows you the process works there. And when they're called upon, they're willing to go in and do the work. That gives us a lot of hope. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times, like Perry was saying, they have a war room meeting before they go online, or before they go in front of in front of the public, and they got to basically check the boxes and say, this is what we're going to say, this is crowd control, this is what we're putting out there. Do you agree? Do we vote it in? Yes, let's go. So yeah, I mean, I believe the FBI is definitely involved when need be, and I think they're right there. When they're called, that number's called, they're here. So that's good news.
Yeah, and I think in the McClurkin case, with the FBI getting involved, there may have been something that we're not aware of that involved another state.
Yep.
They needed information from another agency in another state. A lot of times when we needed to use the FBI, it was because it was out of our jurisdiction. There was something that we needed help with. We had no authority to ask for anything. We couldn't get subpoenas or warrants or whatever, but the FBI can anywhere in the nation. So I think as things develop here, we'll see that there was something like that. They needed that federal hand to reach out there and do something.
True.
Unsolved asks Cop Faxx. Let's see. Just Pam brings forward a great question. When can the FBI bring forward investigations outside of a bank robbery or state local invitation? Isn't kidnapping part of that, Perry?
Yeah, kidnapping can be. Yeah. Yep.
So if they think the girls were kidnapped, like in Iowa, they obviously were taken because they were found 20 some miles away. And Delphi is considered kidnapped, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, as soon as he took them off that bridge and made them go somewhere, that's against their will. Is that
correct?
That's kidnapping.
Correct. But that doesn't mean
Abduction.
it doesn't mean they take over the case, though. It means they can assist, they step in, but it doesn't mean that they're going to take over the case unless locals just ask them to. And we can't handle this. We need your help. Take it. Sure. Needs to happen, probably.
Yeah.
True.
Sure. Bridget says, can you ask Perry if he thinks it's a group, Kristen? Why would Bridge Guy need to carry so much obvious stuff under the layers if others were there waiting? He'd only need a gun.
I'm not sure I understood that. Run that by me again.
Okay. She wants to know if you think it's a group, more than one person, And why would Bridge Guy need to carry so much obvious stuff under the layers if there were others waiting there? He'd only need a gun.
Well, if I could answer that, I could probably solve this real easy. I don't know. My gut feeling is that there was at least one other person involved. Why Bridge Guy would have had all these items, which we're assuming he had, we're not positive of that. We're assuming that he had a lot of stuff from the way he looked. So I don't know. That's my gut feeling, is that there's more than one person involved. Just where the girls were found, how they were moved there, how they got there, controlling them till you got them there. I think that's more than a one-man job.
You know what I think is funny is that I like the way you said that we don't know that. We assume so much in this case. Just because Bridge Guy's on that bridge and looks like he's got stuff under that jacket, he could have extra clothes on under that jacket. What if he had a couple of layers of clothes on, which I've always thought possible? You know what you're going out there to do. FBI says in the Ron Logan affidavit that the crime scene was bloody. He knows he's going to get probably bloody. Can't be bloody when you're leaving because someone might see you. Best way to get rid of that is to have multiple layers of clothes on. It doesn't mean he had a whole bunch of stuff under his jacket just to commit a crime. That was my opinion anyway of what I was thinking. But I like the way you said it, because it brings us back to reality that we are assuming so much we don't know. Cheryl Perry says you are super handsome, and I have to agree with her on that one.
Well, after the Johnny Depp thing, I appreciate that.
Throw Perry one.
There you go. Thanks, Cheryl, for giving that to Perry, but I've always thought he was handsome. So anyway, hang on a second here. What's Alicia say? Alicia wants to know, always thought the killer came in as a frumpy older guy, but left as a young, fit guy.
Yeah, possible.
So, Indiana Paintbrush would like to know, Perry, could you give us a summary of your theory on the Delphi case? I don't know that he's going to do that. But you can ask him.
Let me just say this. Gonzo doesn't know my theory, and I don't know his, but we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't go into details. So
Yeah.
sorry.
And there's reasons
That's
for
tough.
that. It's very tough. You've got to be careful when you're talking about this case. Perry is ex-law enforcement. He has to be careful about what he says about any open case. He doesn't want to do anything that's going to cause problems with the case or anything. So I respect that of him, that he doesn't do that. And by the way, I just want to put this out there while we're talking about this. I saw last night on a comment on a Sunny Justice video that somebody said on my last interview with you, Perry, that you said you made a comment that there was one female content creator that may or may not have it right. You thought had it right. And for some reason, somebody's going around there saying, I said, you said. It was Sunny. That is not true.
About that. I've heard
I
about
have
that.
never, ever said that. Perry did not reveal who that was. I've never asked him to reveal it.
Perry keeps it real tight. That's,
I was just going to say, I would
100%.
never ask him that. So
no.
I know where the boundaries are with him. I respect them. And I just want to put that out there for everybody. I did not say that. It was Sunny Justice that had this right. So whoever got that idea, that's not true.
If somebody had it right, it'd be done, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of go in that direction, and you already taken us there. So I have to be real careful, and I think everybody does. But things get twisted a little bit. You know, people embellish what I say or what Gonzo says or what anybody says. And I've heard it many times, not many, but enough that it disturbed me that people have exaggerated things that I've said. I guess because of my history or something. It's not, it's not, the end all of everything, every investigation. I just don't want my words to be, twisted or added to or misconstrued. And so I'm real careful what I'm going to say.
Smart.
Alicia, Gonzo, what's your backstory? I know you try to help find the missing, but curious what got you started.
Oh man. Yeah. My backstory is I'm just kind of I started out as like an adventure mountain climber. I'll swim in all the waters and run up all the hills. And I decided to use my talents to help find missing people. And I had a missing persons case in Casper, Wyoming that really got me going years ago, and it put me on to several cases. My bread and butter case, my baby case, my backyard case is in Salida, Colorado. That's the Suzanne Morphew case. I worked a little bit on the Kelsey Barrett case. I've been to the Valo Daybell areas of interest, the Chris Watts case, Summer Wells case. I've run around all of these cases, Gabby Petito, you name it. So if I can get somewhere and really help out and try to use my skill set to find missing people, I'm not a big online sleuth. It's just not my game. I get out there and try to go to these areas and talk to the locals and see what I can do to help out. And Delphi, I've been to Delphi a few times. Talk to the locals, get a good vantage point on it. Flora, man, that's kind of my backstory. But yeah, just use my skill set wisely. And I don't talk about them much. I don't post about a lot of these cases and a lot of my findings because I have to go back to these cases. I got to go back to Delphi. And if I'm running around talking about my POIs and stuff, that's not going to be a healthy situation for me. I've rode around with some really bad people in this community, suspects, and I can't go out there throwing things online behind the screen. I got to really be careful, like Perry says, with how I word things and how I act, because I have to show back up. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I'm up against.
No, I think it speaks to who you are wonderfully. What I love about both of you is that you can tell that you're both not in this just to get viewers and subscribers, and that's not your intent at all. And you really do care about these cases and want to see good things happen. And I'm so glad that, a lot of people who've been in law enforcement, don't want to come and put their face out and talk about cases and things like that for all kinds of reasons. And we're very lucky to have Perry in our community who's willing to talk and to put out videos for us to learn from and write books that we can all enjoy. And I'll talk about that in a minute because I do want you guys to know about Perry's book. It's wonderful. I have it. I'll show it to you in a minute. And you guys need to read it. It gives you a good insight into who this man is and the life that he lived, I think. It's fiction, but I think a lot of truth comes from what he lived as a police officer. And so I have a tremendous amount of respect for both of you and what you do in this community. And just like Gonzo told us, not everyone in this community is here for good. And we need to remember that as we're walking around in the community, looking at live streams, going into channels, listening to what they're saying. And you really need to listen to your gut. When something doesn't seem right or seems off, you need to not partake in that, in my opinion. You need to walk away because it's not good for the community. And Digital has a really good question, Perry. He wants to know if they have a witness who wants protection, would that automatically get the FBI involved?
It could. It certainly could. They would need to be involved if we're going to give serious protection, like a new identity and those kind of things. Yeah, they would have to be.
Do you think they need to be talking more
everybody
about
thinks
witness protection?
I'm sorry.
I just
Everybody
want to
talks
know
about
if you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
everybody talks about the FBI constantly. Keep in mind the FBI's number one job for the last 20-some years is Homeland Security, not murders.
Yep.
A lot of this stuff is handled by U.S. Marshals, ATF, different federal organizations. A lot of this stuff will get passed off. Some murder, well, I'm trying to think. Some murders that I was involved in, we used the FBI. I don't remember it getting passed off to anybody, but on some lesser crimes where we needed technical experts, like for forensic things on skulls and technical things with computers and phones, it ended up going through U.S. Marshals and getting sent all over the country. So they do, these other organizations, just as equipped as the FBI, actually does a lot of that work behind the scenes. The FBI doesn't do everything. And to go back on what you were saying, and I appreciate your little plug there. I think Gonzo and I are in this. I'm in this just to give a little bit of a law enforcement perspective and to keep people on the right side of their thought process and not let them go down a road that's not taking them anywhere. And I think Gonzo is real similar, only his more of a day-to-day communication with people and his ability to interact. When we're somewhere together, believe it or not, he gets a lot of attention. People come over and talk to him.
I bet he does. I bet, Perry, you get attention.
Not as much as Perry, though. Yeah, not as much as Perry. I mean, yeah, it's just awesome to reach out to people that are like-minded, really care about these cases. And one of the things that I was thinking the last couple of days is, if I'm a victim or a family member of a victim that's missing or murdered or any of these things, I'm going to want to look out into the community and see people come together to try to solve this thing as a whole, to try to get on the same pages, to work with the facts and work with each other's strong points. I want to see that as somebody that's on the other side. And if I could look out and see the community really just pulling together, try to go for the same conclusion, man, that's positivity all the way around. And those are the people I want to align with. And that's why I'm hanging with you guys right now. Keep your tribe tight, and man, we can do big things out here.
And I think that's what you've got out in Salida. I think you've got a group of people in Salida that are of the same thinking.
I think so. I mean, right now I'm in the middle of Colorado. If you put your finger on the map in Colorado, I'm in a hotel in the very middle of that state. And I do not feel worried. I do not feel attacked. I feel like we've created a good enough, thing here to try to go for the facts, to try to go towards the conclusion in a positive, respectful way. Man, we can show our faces. We can go on lives. We can talk about it. We can really work together. And that's where I'm at right now.
Because the community in Salida respects you. They know you're there for the good, and they know you're there to bring answers and to help find Suzanne. And I think that's really, I don't know how to put it. Yeah, better than that. Because, and you've always said this to me, make sure that you keep your circle tight. And I've learned that the hard way in the last few months on YouTube.
We all have.
And I did it, and I learned it, and I got my feet burned by fire. And I'm here to tell you that is the absolute truth. And I'm trying to build a community of respect in my channel, and they love you guys. So I think that's like I said, that's a good reason to have you guys on, so that you can interact with them and they can ask you good questions. There's one here. Why do you think HLN did not air the Kagan Klein interview, even though the transcript was leaked? Was there information that was redacted from that transcript that the police didn't want made public?
That could be a tactic. I mean, that could be, they could be holding those cards. We don't know. I believe they're holding cards right now. And I believe they're doing that with the best, with the best intentions. I think it's going to go a long ways if they keep it tight as well. Yeah, we get a little impatient, but I think that's probably a positive, and maybe there's going to be a part 2. You never know.
I just wondered if it was a strategic. I mean, isn't it all strategy, Perry? I mean, isn't all of this, like you said, nobody's going to go on and do an interview. Nobody's going to go on television and talk about an open murder investigation where
Right.
police has not strategically said this is what's going to be said and nothing else. Right?
That's right. And the other thing with, a national TV show like that, they've got legal advisors, and they were probably advised there too, not only from, Indiana State Patrol, but maybe FBI, and certainly their attorneys said, we don't want to go there or whatever.
True.
That always plays into it too.
Tamara says, I believe the cemetery is significant, and I believe the girls' bodies, sad as it is, hold huge clues to this evil bastard. I've always said, one of the things that bothers me about the 13th, the night the girls went missing, was the fact that anybody that was searching could have walked right out of that cemetery through the gate onto Ron Logan's property, which is actually where he kept his horses, so the pasture, took the walk right down the pasture, right over the hill, straight down to the crime scene. And I don't understand to this day how somebody didn't do that, because they were out all over walking. Even Ron Logan knew they were out there walking all over his property, and it doesn't make any sense to me that they weren't found. And I know I can't get that out of my head, but that's one of the things that bugs me to death. Why weren't they found? So.
And they shut it down, so that didn't, you lose some valuable time there. I mean, I think I would have gotten in trouble by spotlighting and staying out there all night.
Yeah, and I don't want to go to Tobe's rescue too much, but this comes back to kind of a legal decision. He had, a liability issue with him. He couldn't allow that search to go on. It is going to be kind of dangerous out there at night. Somebody could get hurt, and it could be, if it was sanctioned by the sheriff's office, that falls back on the sheriff. And I'm sure that was going through his mind. Like, I gotta get my people out of this. We're calling this off officially. That doesn't mean other people like Gonzo can't continue.
Right.
So
at your own risk.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm not a huge fan of his, but I have to kind of defend him just a bit on that, because I think that was what his thinking was. I can't allow this to keep going. Somebody's going to get hurt out here.
Right. And I do get that, and I do understand that. But putting yourself in the place as a parent and knowing that your children are out there, and it's February and it's freaking cold, and it's like, to hear the officials say, we got to stop looking, when we know, and I'm assuming, I guess here, maybe I shouldn't, but when we have children go missing in national parks, and it happens all the time, they don't stop looking. They keep going. They look all night. They don't just call off the searches when there's little children missing in national parks. Why is that? Because we know that they can succumb to the elements very rapidly because of their their bodies aren't equipped, to handle that. Now, Abby and Libby were larger. They weren't small children, but they were still children, and they were not dressed for the elements. So all those things play into it. But
yeah, you can go both ways on that, and I just wanted to throw that out. I think he did have the liability of having an official search going on and having all these people out there, it falls back on him if somebody is hurt.
Or if somebody contaminates the crime scene and runs up on things without control,
Yeah,
without gloves,
and that
could get
that
messy.
happened. I'm sure that's
Oh, yeah.
already happened.
Yep.
Tamara
Happens
wants to
all the time.
know, was there a searcher who led searchers in the other direction, telling searchers who wanted to search there that it had already been searched? Possible.
We've heard that, but I don't know if it's confirmed. But yeah, we've heard that from a couple of people.
It's
So, I
always
mean,
always possible. I've saw that firsthand with the Morphew case. We had a lot of misdirection out there early. Some people call question to that. It happens all the time.
is it like, Gonzo, when you're out there searching and everything's so heightened, and especially early on or whatever, people's emotions are so, is it just easy for them to get messed up and think it's been searched? Or what do you
well,
think?
yeah, sometimes boundaries go out the window. Sometimes you're not in your right mind, depending on how long you've been searching, what the terrain looks like. I mean, there's all kinds of uncontrolled circumstances that can come into play, and you might not always be at your best. And that's why they do have trained search personnel to do these things. Yeah, we all want to think that we can go out there and search, but there's a lot of different protocols and ways to handle these things. So you don't have an issue down the road or get a case thrown out or contaminate something. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I can go both ways as well on that.
That's what Unsolved just said. Chemicals at the crime scene or contamination by search parties not properly trained in recovery. I mean, we know that there were all kinds of people out there not trained in recovery. I mean, it was townsfolk,
Yep.
community folk that just walked out with their flashlights and started looking. We didn't have a lot. I don't think there was a lot of professional searchers out there for these girls.
This community's never seen anything like this. They don't know the etiquette. They don't know the way to handle this. They just want to go out and do something right and really try. And I can't fault them for that. But I mean, there's so many different things that we got to do when we come up on something. I mean, body cam, gloves. I mean, don't touch anything, call it in. There's a lot of things that you got to take into consideration.
And keep in mind, on the 13th, they were not expecting to find 2 girls murdered. They're looking for lost or maybe injured girls, not murdered girls.
Right. Yeah, because I thought to myself, even if that was the case, that they're thinking that the girls are hurt, broken leg, where they were and what that terrain was like. It could have easily, somebody could have fallen and broke their leg. Maybe the cell phone fell in the water and they had no way to call anyone and let them know. To me, that's just another reason to keep going. Sorry, guys. I get it. I mean, I just get it.
Yeah, and back to the parents. The parents are going to think the worst. They've been abducted. They've been kidnapped. Something terrible's happened.
True.
Yeah, we could beat that horse for a while. I don't know. It's under the bridge.
We don't know what we don't know what we don't know about it, how we would handle it, period.
Right. Well, you both, like I said, you both have been on searches. I haven't. So you know more about how that goes and what you're going to feel like when you're out there doing it. And it's, the emotions are going to run high no matter what. And the parents especially. I mean, they're just going to be over the top emotional because they want their girls, they want their kids back, and at all costs, they don't care,
Yeah.
But are you guys still feeling confident about Delphi? And especially after yesterday, are you even more confident than you were before, Perry? You're shaking your head. He's shaking his head.
Yes.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Yes.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I'm so tired of the naysayers that want to take all the hope away from the family and basically just say, this is a cold case. They never knew what they were doing from the beginning. They don't know who Bridge Guy is. They don't know this. They don't know that. I just don't know where these people come from.
This case is only as cold as we're going to let it get, and we're not going to let it get cold. So
well said.
Yeah. We got to stay positive. That's when we do our best work.
Yeah. And I'm just going to throw this out here because I'm sure you all know, but this is a case that is also near and dear to me. I followed it since the day she went missing. But Kristen Smart, you know, 26 years ago, Kristen Smart went missing on a college campus in California. She was 19 years old and had her whole life ahead of her. And she just disappeared after a party. And the person that they looked at in the beginning, that they've held as the top suspect in this case, ever since it happened, it took them 26 years to bring him to justice. And her trial started yesterday. And so, you know, yeah, exactly. You know, thank God for that.
I mean, the process is crazy. It works. I mean, Perry's seen it a million times. We've witnessed it in other cases.
And they don't have her
it's a miracle.
body.
Yeah,
they still don't have Kristen's body, but they're finally taking this case to trial. And I believe they have enough to convince a jury. I really honestly do. And just from what I know, and we don't know everything they know yet, so it hasn't come out. So I firmly believe that he's guilty and that justice will be served finally for her. But my point to all these people that are the naysayers is, if it takes 5 years or 26 years, we can't let the voice of those people whose lives were taken in such gruesome manner just go without any, I don't know. We have to speak up for them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And be out there for them and keep their stories out there so that people like Gonzo, people like Perry, people who are, you know, retired law enforcement that get into trying to help with these cold cases. There's a lot of you out there that do that. That's how they get solved, right? Is by keeping the eyes out on the case, and you guys going back and looking over and re-examining and, you know, retesting evidence that you didn't get to test back then.
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
Dealing with the facts, you know, dealing in the facts, and going back to what Perry said as well, you know, I mean, in Delphi, motive, opportunity, means, breaking it down, keep it simple. We can take a lot of these cases back to the beginning. I mean, Evansdale's 10 years, and I still remember the name Lyric and Elizabeth. You know, those names are there, you know. It's like they're only as cold as we allow them to be. So let's just keep grinding.
Exactly. There's a person, Regan Lynch says, have you seen the letter from the whistleblower about the fire, about the Flora fire? If these facts are correct, this is really a different story than has been told. I've not seen a whistleblower letter, so I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know if you guys know, but if there's a letter out there, I'd love to see it. I don't know what you're talking about.
I heard about it.
I'd like to see that.
I would like to see that. Yeah, I would like to see that letter. Email it to me if you have it, because I would definitely like to see it.
And then you can get it to us. Yeah,
I would definitely get it to you guys for sure.
You know, Gonzo just hit on something. The word facts. You know, I had in my mind, you know, there's speculation. And that's what the true crime world is really all about. And then there's facts. And like he just reminded us, we can only deal with the facts, or law enforcement can only deal with facts. If they have speculation, that's fine. You go in that direction until you eliminate those possibilities. But they can only deal with hard facts. And that's hard for the general public to understand sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes the facts are boring, you know. They want something a little bit bigger than it.
Yeah, they're not what they want them to be, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Facts don't. I mean, speculation doesn't hold up in court of law. We got to go with what's going to work, what is tried and true. So,
well, just like the McClurkin case, this character Farmer was from the get-go. His name was there, but it took 5.5 years for them to pick him up.
Exactly, and
they had to check all those boxes and yeah,
double check, triple check.
Yeah.
And if what we all feel is the case with Delphi, that they were onto something early on, and it's all an alibi, that got messed up, and there's an alibi there that they need to break and get
I think
worked
that's
out.
part of it.
You
Yep.
can't
Yeah.
necessarily just do that overnight, depending on what it is. And
It's got to be concrete.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and Jennifer says this, everyone these days, and I agree with her, everyone these days wants a conspiracy and wants to say there's a big conspiracy about everything. And
Yeah.
that's not always the truth. And I think that's just because of what's been happening in our society for the last 6 years or so. Conspiracy theories have just grown and grown on all kinds of fronts. And you can't do that around true crime, in my opinion. You have to look and examine the evidence and the facts. And when you don't know the facts, as true crime people who follow cases, you can't make up your own.
You got to work towards them. Yes.
Yes, you got to work towards finding them. You can't make them up on your own. You can't fill in things that are blanks. You can't fill them in for your viewers or for your books that you're writing on, especially on opened cases. You just can't say that. And that's what I think we see sometimes, or people forget about, that they want to write their own narrative on how things go or went, and they don't want to look at any other possibility.
True.
So
Yeah, and Gonzo said this a couple of times to me and other people. It's hard to, when somebody has a POI or their theory on something, it's really hard to move them off of that. They're that's their center, and it's hard to convince them of something else.
yeah, it
Tunnel
really
vision.
bothers me. Gonzo, don't you think it's like being a Cub fan?
It
You're
hurts.
never going to not be a Cub fan, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna ride or die with those guys, and I'm dying right now. But that's another story. So no, yeah, you're right. It's just, I think that we just got to go with what we know and work towards truth, and we will find justice. And that's kind of how that works. Work towards truth, justice will come. Trust the process.
Yeah.
And I so agree with that. So many people comment on my stuff and say, "Well, but you're investigating this and you shouldn't." I'm not investigating this case. I'm not law enforcement. I mean, I'm looking at things in this case, but I'm not an investigator. I mean, I'm not. I don't even profess to be one. But I try to glean the facts as I know them to be truth that is only said from law enforcement's mouth. Um, and one of the problems we have in this case that I don't think anyone's willing to talk about is we don't really have a timeline, because
True.
we don't. Law enforcement's never given us one. We've gotten a timeline from the family, but we've never gotten one from law enforcement. So our timeline could be really screwed up with what we think we know. And the same with the witnesses. And I said that the other night on my live, and boy, did I get a lot of nasty comments for that. But
It's true. It's true.
but I said it about witnesses. We don't know who they've interviewed. We don't know who's witnesses in this case that they are holding, or that they've said you are not to talk to the public. You're not to go public with anything that you've talked to us about, because this is your testimony will be happening in court when this comes to fruition, whatever, and we can't have you out there talking about it. And all these people that say, well, I have an inside source and this is what they told us and they were a witness to this, and we have to take all of that with a grain of salt, don't we, Perry?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. But it's hard to keep people quiet when you give them that little spiel that you just gave them. Yeah, you can't talk to anybody. Now, this is important. It's a serious case and all that. And you hear a couple of days later through the grapevine, yeah, so and so said that they spilled the beans and all this. Like, oh, great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's
true crime rumors are, and things that are that can get blown out of proportion. Can just think of how fast a rumor can start in your community. Now you put that out on a worldwide stage. Put that out on the internet, and figure out how fast some stuff can fly around. Once
Oh,
it grabs some traction and you hit send, it's over.
it does. I mean, we can talk about Lee Kerr.
There you go.
You guys want to hit on that, Perry? What do you think about Lee Kerr?
You know what? I haven't seen everything. I'm going to stay away from that one.
That's
call.
probably the smart thing to do. That is
But
probably
it's just an example. It's a big example of how fast things can just take off. And I mean, when you have a platform and you have a voice, you know, I got a very small channel. I don't say much, but I can imagine some of these channels that have a lot of pull and a lot of reach. You say the wrong thing or too much of something, man, it can take off like wildfire. And then we're asking what the accelerant was, right? It goes nuts. So
no, exactly, because somebody threw this word, and everybody wants to know, where did you get that? That's not a normal accelerant to use. Why would you bring that up? How did you hear that? And
so why we go back to the facts, right?
You know, it's just any of it. Everybody talks about, see JK in chat just talking about the dog walking lady. We have never been told that she exists. We don't know any of these people. Law enforcement has given us nothing. And we have to continue to remember that when we're looking at the case. So I just feel like that's not what people want to hear, because like Perry said, in true crime, why do we watch true crime? Why are we obsessed with it? Because I believe there's an obsession here where people are obsessed with it. And as you can see, more and more true crime shows are coming out, more documentaries all the time are being made, and more channels on television for us to watch and find out about some of these big name crimes or whatever. And you know, I just why are we so fascinated with it, Perry? What do you think?
I don't know. What crossed my mind as you were saying that was the Joe Kenda show, Homicide Hunter, with Lieutenant Joe Kenda.
Love that show, by the way.
Well, I worked for him. I know him really well. I was shocked. I probably told this story before, but I'll try to speed it up. I went to a retirement party. He was there, and he gives me a card, tells me that he's talking to a producer and he's going to have a TV show. I went, yeah, all right, cool. You know, kind of blew it off. And he told me the name of the producer, and I happen to know that person, which doesn't have anything to do with this. But anyway, 6 months later, whatever, my mother says, did you know a guy named Kenda? And I said, yeah, I used to work for him. Well, he's on TV. He's got a TV show about Colorado Springs and blah, blah. My bottom line is, I think there's like 170 episodes of that show. It went on for years. I don't know how many seasons.
Right.
And he's on cruises where he gives talks, and he's written a couple of books, and he's been a big help to me. But I'm shocked at how big Joe Kenda is. He's just a regular guy, a very smart, regular guy, and a great guy to work for. He sent me to England. I can't complain. But it's just, Colorado Springs isn't Los Angeles or something. It's just 500,000 people there. But yet, entertainment can turn it into a
big time
5 or 6 years of TV shows and a lot of money.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
because it's crime. It's crime. And it's real. They're real cases.
And
I want to
think
see a train wreck.
Yeah. More and more real case shows are happening all the time. I mean, we all remember Columbo and what was the older woman?
Murder, She Wrote.
Thank you. I loved her. Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury. Those were great TV shows. But, or Perry Mason. I remember, I'm old enough that I even remember Perry Mason. So, but crazy stuff.
I bet you guys don't remember Dragnet.
Yes, I do.
Dragnet.
Yes, I do. I certainly do.
Joe Friday.
Remember Joe Friday. Man. He was something else. Wasn't he tough?
Facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Just the facts, ma'am. I know. Yep. So Cheryl would like to know if the sketches are really relevant anymore. Sketches are hard because you could see so many people in a sketch. What do you want to say, Gonzo, about sketches?
Oh man. So see this guy right here?
Yeah,
That's
I
DB
see him.
Cooper.
That's DB Cooper.
He is only a sketch. We don't know who the guy was before, a lot like Bridge Guy. We don't know who he was after. We only have a sketch and a little bit of video, right? You can go a long ways with these sketches. I can bust down the analytics on, what the probabilities of being correct are, and we can go into that for for days. But I mean, this whole case is built on a sketch.
Yeah.
I believe the older one and the younger one. I believe there's something to that. I won't say that that's the Kleins, but I will say I'm going to leave that one right here. But there's some stuff to do with it. I don't know. I've never been sold on the sketches, but
Perry, what's your feeling on the sketches?
I'm going to stay away from that one too. I think they're going to. I think when it's all said and done, the sketches are going to play into it. But the curveball they threw us with the changeup,
Yeah.
you just wonder why did we waste all this other time then?
Yes, exactly.
So I don't know.
So,
Don't want to make a fool of myself on that one.
so this account says, and this is how I feel about it, they aren't for us, just for people who know him. And I think that
Well said.
the sketch was never for the public to say, oh, let's go rush and look at our school yearbook and see if we know who this guy is. That is not what these are for. These are for people who work with him, live with him, go to church with him, possibly cut their grass with him next door. And they know him, they see him, and they would recognize the characteristics in that sketch of this person. That's the way I look at it. And to me, that's what a sketch is. I just think there's been way, way too much time and effort put in on these sketches and trying to figure out who or what they are, or people saying, well, somebody commented after I put out the community post yesterday on what's the guy's name again? Flint. What's his name?
Farmer.
Yeah.
Flint Farmer. They said, well, he doesn't look like Bridge Guy. I never once said he did. And, why are you even saying that? Where's that coming from? But that's the mindset that's out there. People still think those sketches were supposed to, every person that gets arrested or a person who was a POI in somebody's mind needs to fit that. And I don't think that's true. So that's what I will say about the sketches.
I mean, it's crazy. Walking around in Delphi community, I mean, almost any portly 45-year-old man walking into a coffee shop, you're kind of looking like, oh, whoa. I mean, it just happens. And then, you got the drastic other sketch, the younger sketch. It's just like this one here. I mean, there's 3 different major DB Cooper sketches, and that messed the public up for 50 years. It still does to this day, 50 years later. So hopefully we're not talking about the Bridge Guy sketches 50 years from now.
I hope not either. I probably won't be here. So I would really like to have it wrapped up before then. But
it's just an example. I mean, people pay a lot of attention to that and start to tunnel in on that. We do have audio, we do have video, and that's more than some cases. But also, did that hurt us? I mean,
I think it has. Think that way. I think it has. I think it's done less good than more good, and that's just my opinion.
Or this case wouldn't have half the attention if we didn't have some video or an audio. So
and I do think that that's one of the reasons that so many people are drawn to it. because they can't believe that we have the video of him on the bridge, the voice of him, and we can't figure out who he is.
What more do you need? Yeah.
What more do you need? Exactly.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking. Yeah.
And my thought is they know who he is. They just can't place him where they need to because of an alibi. And that's where I believe it is.
Let's hope they get there.
I agree.
Is Tech Death on here?
He was. He may have fell asleep. Hold on a second. He was. He was talking to me. Hold on a second.
I just wanted to give him a plug because his music is great.
I know. He is. He's being really quiet tonight. I don't think
he's probably the most genuine, sincere dude I've met.
Isn't he amazing?
He
and I've got to know each other really, really well, and I just can't say enough about him. Not only his music, but just like you said, Gonzo, him as a person. He has the biggest heart.
He'll call you or he'll text you at 2 a.m. Hey, you up? What's up? What's going on? Show you his new rigs and what he's working on, and genuinely be, excited to hear what you're up to. I mean, that's a friend right there. That's a good dude. He's
always checking in with me to make sure I'm feeling okay, to make sure my asthma's doing okay. I mean, he's just a super person, and he is here. Perry, he's here, so if you talk to him, he'll hear you.
Well, the first time I saw his video that he did on Libby and Abby, and he used his music, Emotions.
Yes.
And it was just a video with emotions playing. And I fell in love with that song. I couldn't get it out of my head. And I was planning to do this movie. And I said, I'm going to contact this guy. I've got to have that piece of music in there. And then I think I'd already contacted Tech Death and got permission, and we were working on that. And then Gonzo used the same music on a video that he did. And I went, wow, I must be on the right track here. And we've never talked about Tech Death at all. But anyway,
that's funny.
We used him in the film that we did, the short film. And I want to use him again if I can. And
he will be more than happy. I know. He has talked about coming on and doing a live with me and having Gonzo on, and actually the two of them playing. And I want that to happen so bad. He sends me video every once in a while of him playing, and I can watch him play.
He shreds.
And that, oh man, I just love it. It's really funny because he hang on, he's answering me a question. I think what's funny about him is that I didn't really like that level of music too much until I really started listening to him. And he's turned me on to some other music like that I really have found that I like. So I think that's a good thing.
Well, he's got a big range. I mean, he's got a pretty big range there.
He can go into the metal and be like mathematical about it. I mean, the guy's super talented. He's really working hard. He goes sometimes 10 hours a day, just buckles down, goes into the studio, I guess, and puts it down. Like when we're out doing things, we're shopping and doing other things, he's still in the studio. He's still grinding.
Yep. And he's same with me. I'll ask him, I'll be like, Tech Death, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm practicing. And I'm like,
10 hours straight. You
need to let your hands have a little break because, he does have arthritis in his hands. And I'm like, I can see why. Come on. He's like, I can't. It's this mental thing with him. But
he's got a giver's heart. He's the most loving dude. And
well, he's not. I don't think he's had a really. I think he's feeling under the weather. So send him some love, please, everyone, because he's such an amazing person, and he'd have been in here. These are two of his favorite people ever. He's always at me, Kristen. You need to get Perry and Gonzo back on your show together. And I'm like, I will. I'll ask. I promise. But so he's a big fan. And like I said, I can't say enough about him.
We're big fans. We're all big fans of his. And like I said,
he does my intro and my outro music. So he's just can't say enough about him. And William
if Gonzo
says,
and I ever do
Gonzo,
anything, if we ever do anything together, which we've kind of played with, Tech Death will definitely be involved in it.
Oh, absolutely.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, yeah, I think that we just kind of we manifest and create the culture that we want to be part of, right? And these are the people that I want to align with. So I'm just
I love
excited to
it.
be here. So
Well, we're excited to have you here and be a part of our family, because that's the way I feel about it. It's funny. We finally came up with a little name for our family group, and we're the Doors.
ooh, that's cool.
So I thought that was kind of cool. You know, we all remember the Doors. Well, we're the
Yeah.
Doors. So you guys are part of the Doors, and you can just
Perry's Jim Morrison.
there you
Yeah,
go.
right.
I don't know, Perry. I think you could pass.
I think you got this.
I do. I think you do. But Tex here, he said he just got back. Hey guys, I just got back.
Sweet.
So
He's always on it, man. That guy's
we've been talking
number
about
one.
you, Tech. You'll have to go back and play the replay, because Faxx and Perry and Gonzo both have been giving you high fives. They love you.
He's awesome.
So, well, guys, we've been on here for a while. Is there anything else? Do we want to touch a little bit more on Evansdale, or is there anything else you want to wrap up with? I'm going to give Perry's book a plug here. Hold on.
Evansdale, 10 years. We got to get this thing done. Let's hope something shakes loose, and keep it in the light, keep it in the forefront of your minds. Just keep doing positive work, and that's all we can do with Evansdale. Just keep grinding. I always say that.
Yeah, I
Yep.
just, I feel the same way, Gonzo. We just need to keep talking about them and just never let up. Just never give up that hope. I think that says it so much, so well. How about you, Perry? Any last thoughts before I give you
Well,
a plug?
I think a lot of people think there's a connection. There very well could be. I think there's more different issues to the cases than there are similarities, but that doesn't mean that I'm right. But I think you guys are right. We just need to keep it in the forefront, keep it out there, and keep those people, doing the investigation. And they've got tips. They're probably still following them up.
And everybody share. Share these cases. Talk to people about them. And like I said, go into the channels that you follow. And if they're not talking about these cases, ask them why.
Yeah.
Tell them these cases need to be talked about. I get that people are talking about a lot of other cases out there, but these cases, and especially Flora, need talked about. Flora especially. Hello, Meow. So glad that you're here. We can't say enough about Flora right now. Everything that's happening in Flora is, in my opinion, just heartbreakingly disgusting, and we have to get eyes on it. We just do. Absolutely. I do want to tell you guys all about House. Oops, let me get it in the camera. There you go. This is Perry's book. It's called House Secrets, and it is a fantastic read. You can get it on Amazon, you guys. I believe wholeheartedly that photograph on the front of this book is Gonzo. There's just something about it that reminds me of him. Yeah, it's a really good read. I've read it. I'm anxious for another one, Perry, whenever you get the chance.
Anybody that's got a chance to read this book has got to take the ride. I always say we get to ride shotgun with Eddie in this book. And Eddie, I feel like he's like a big brother, maybe a mentor to me. So it's been really, I give this book out. This is a beat up copy, and I guarantee I give this book away to somebody tomorrow. I just want it to travel the land.
It's amazing. It's just a really, really good, a really good book. I can't say enough about the character. And it's like I said, I don't care what Perry says, but this character just reminds me of what he was back in the day.
You guys are too kind.
I think you were a tough
Thank you.
guy. I
Thank
think you
you.
were a tough, sweet person.
Well,
I can't imagine you being undercover in a biker gang in that, you know, brawny, mean culture.
In that time
He's
when
so soft spoken and so kind, and that's what everyone says about you, Perry. You know that, right?
yeah, I've heard that. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are
even
both very kind.
Serpico had to go a little bit outside of the wheelhouse of, yeah, you just got to get a little crazy sometimes and take the trip. It's worth it.
It is definitely worth it. I agree. And
Thank you, guys.
so,
Thank you.
how do you get across? Ka wants to know, how can she go about getting an autographed copy of your book, Perry?
Mhm.
There you go.
I'd love to do that.
Oh, you should do a book signing.
Yeah, I plan to.
That would be awesome.
I'm sure where they'll be. It's funny. I ran into an old friend today I hadn't seen in a long time, and he was coming in the store. I was going out, and he goes, "Hey, I read your book. I loved it." Blah, blah. And what got me was he says, "I read it in one setting." So what? That's hard to do. So,
That is, it's a long book.
So coming from this guy, it was quite a compliment because we're kind of from a different world. But anyway, I appreciate everything both of you said. Thank you.
Well, you said that this is your first time writing, correct? Published?
Yeah, it's the first thing I published. Yeah, actually, that was a screenplay. First part of that book was a screenplay that I wrote at Lou Hunter's prompting, and the TV producer that I talked about. We tried to do a TV show with my background. Never could pitch it to the right people and find the money. But anyway, that got me into writing with Lou Hunter's assistance. And since we couldn't sell the TV show or the script to do a movie, I decided to just put it in the book form and finished it. So,
well, like I said, for a first-time book, Gonzo, wouldn't you agree? It's phenomenal.
It is. I mean, honestly, it's changed a lot of my thinking on things, and like I said, that's mentor work right there. And I give it out. Like I said, I buy a copy and I give one away.
Well, I talk about
that's enough. That's enough. I wrote a lot of warrants. before.
There we go.
A lot of warrants. Oh boy, I'm sure you have
a lot of affidavits.
Oh, yep. I'm sure you have. Well, you guys, I am so glad that you came on with us tonight. I can't tell you how much that means to me. I love the conversations that we always have. And I know that the people who watch this later will feel the same way, because you always leave us with something that we didn't think of before, both of you. And I know that my subscribers love you. So I'm so glad that you were here and gave us that time tonight. I appreciate it so much.
Well, I appreciate all the support you've given my channel and my book and other things. And with Gonzo, I don't know how we just connected somehow, and we're going to continue our venture.
That's awesome.
I would like to add one thing. You say leave you with something. I would just ask people to give law enforcement a break once in a while. It's a tough time to be a cop right now. And 99+% are doing the best they can every day. You only hear about that small percentage. Where would you be without cops? Just imagine without cops for a couple of hours in our country, it'd be total chaos.
And that is the truth.
Try to show support.
And I agree. And that's why I always try really hard. If I am criticizing, that I try to say, I'm not trying to throw the whole force under the bus. You know, I'm not. We need our police in this country, and maybe some police forces need more training or whatever. But those men and women who risk their lives in this country every day, they put that uniform on. I have 4 family members that 3 are detective and 1 detectives, one's a beat cop. And even here in our city in Illinois, we have so much crime and a lot of murder. And I worry about them all the time because they put their life on the line with these gangs, the gang activity especially.
Yep.
So I commend you the same way I do for Gonzo's service to our country. You know, he served in the military, and that those to me are selfless acts when you do those things because you don't get a lot of accolades for it.
Yeah, I mean,
You
yeah,
know,
let's cut them some slack and help them out and assist them. And
a
oh
lot of
man,
police forces don't have the funding that they need to
true,
do a lot of the stuff that we want them to do.
true.
And you know, the hours and hours of extra time they have to put in because they don't have the manpower. It's sad. We need to get some of that fixed. But no, Perry, we love you and we love law enforcement. We don't want to make
Yeah.
anybody on this
Yeah,
ever
I know
feel
that.
like,
Yeah.
you know, we're
And
against
it's not,
them.
I'm
So,
not talking about any, YouTube creators. I'm just saying in general for anybody in the chat and anybody that ever
mhm,
watches this. Cops need a break right now.
they
It's
do.
true.
They so do. I agree with you completely. But anyway, love you guys. And we will talk to you all later. And have a good evening.
Will do.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, guys, there you go. We had Perry and Faxx, and from Faxx, and make sure you go over and check out his channel if you haven't. Subscribe and like. Pick up his book, House Secrets, from Amazon. You will not be disappointed. It is an amazing read. And please go check out Real Gone Gonzo. He always posts some of the most amazing photographs of his adventures. As he says, he doesn't always tell you what he's up to when he is out there searching for the missing, but guaranteed that he is working behind the scenes for these cases that we have all been covering. And he's a great human being. Can't say enough about him. And I thank all of you for being here. Thank you for everyone who contributed tonight and donated to me and my channel. I so appreciate you. And I am really looking forward to tomorrow and the work that I'll be able to do on Flora and see if we can really get a investigative reporter to take up this case and start looking into what's going on in Flora, Indiana, because I'm here to tell you that something's not right. And what happened yesterday is absolute proof. So I thank everyone, all of my moderators, Michelle, John, AJ, Maria, Unsolved Crimes, Tech Death, all of you guys. I couldn't run the channel without you. I appreciate all of you so much. So have a good evening, and I'll see you all on Thursday night.